Jim, I have a quick question for you. If you were a little bit maps, that might help Melinda. So that we can hear. I never go down. I think I have one in my car.
Just talk me to the mic.
I actually have one in my car from Melinda.
Okay, you ready?
All right, welcome to our special session board meeting for Thursday, October 1st. We have in attendance our business administrator, Richard Reese, board member Elizabeth King, vice president Melinda Johnson, board member Romero, and board member super board member Jared Cooper, and our superintendent Jennifer Covington, and other district staff, and then our Cammy Anderson. We will start with a statement read that I will read. This meeting of the Murray City School Board of Education is being held at the Murray City School District office. Due to concerns of health and safety around COVID, only those on the agenda are in attendance in person. The public may participate in this meeting live via our YouTube channel. A link to the YouTube channel for the meeting is included in the meeting agenda, which can be found at the webpage at murrayschools.org under the Board of Education link. As posted on the agenda for this meeting, public comments could be mailed to info@murrayschools.org until 5 p.m. today. All public comments will be read by Doug Perry, who is our communications and public information at the district office. This board welcomes public comments. The purpose of public comment is for the public to inform the board about their views. The board does not enter into any dialogue on public comments. And we will start with our pledge of allegiance by Superintendent Carpenter.
These rights. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And we have several patient statements that have been emailed in. So Mr. Perry will read those for
What
us.
time is the cutoff for those?
5 p.m.
Okay, I got one more.
That's fine, go ahead.
Fine.
That's 4.
While he's getting ready, we appreciate all those who made public comment, both patrons, teachers, some staff, parents. We value extra information.
Okay, so we have, I believe, 10 public comments. This first one comes from Heather Eliaba. I think this is coming from us. Murray School District. In the board meeting last week, you talked about several possible solutions to get teachers more prep time. One thing I didn't seem to hear was the possibility of hiring teachers' aides to help out. I'm wondering if there's any CARES money left that you could hire some aides to help the teachers out with online workload or prep or whatever they need instead of shortening the school day even further. My daughter goes to Verizon in the DLI program, and her Spanish tanked last year. This year, we're already trying to play catch up on a shorter day to begin with, and I'm concerned that if we keep shortening the day, we're just taking more time from more instructional time away from our students who desperately need it. On another note, the microphone seems to pick up audio quite well, except for when the board members are speaking. Is there any way to fix that? Next one is from Bethany Matsamori, and she writes, I'm grateful for the safety protocols and learning options that are in place to ensure successful school year. My family has chosen a hybrid model and is working very well for us. I recognize that these new accommodations have greatly increased teacher and staff workload, and I will support district options that give teachers and staff more preparation time. This could include a change to the daily school schedule and even move to a 4-day weekly school schedule with the 5th day being work day for teachers and staff. I believe the best way to support our teachers and staff now is to give them adequate time to complete their work while navigating the unique challenges of the year. Next one is Reagan Holmes. I'd like to begin by saying that I'm so proud of Murray School District and how everything has been handled in this unique circumstance. If changes will be made to allow teachers more preparation time, may I suggest either no school on Wednesdays or Fridays. Please don't keep the early out Wednesdays and have Fridays off as well. I think students and teachers need more than 3.5 days each week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and half of Wednesday to be in school. In our family situation, we would easily be able to adjust schedules to have Wednesdays off, and that's what we would prefer if teachers need more time to get work done. Thanks again for your care and attention to our children. Next one is from Bobby Whitlock. I believe that our teachers are tasked with a lot when told to do hybrid and online and in person. I do believe that they're doing a great job. It's also hard for parents and students as well as for the adjustment. We chose to send our kids to school because they learn better from the teachers and being in class. But we are finding that a lot of the teachers are not teaching at the high school and junior high level. I'm not saying all either, but not only from personal experience, but other parents are saying the same thing. They're just telling the students to go to Canvas. When my child has a specific question about a lesson and is in class and told to go look at the video, what is the point of being in class? Again, I believe this is hard, especially at the junior high level for the teachers who are strapped for time, whereas high school has AB days and those kids and teachers can keep up better than junior high. I believe something needs to change in regards to hybrid and online and in class. Hybrid is a pick and choose and pretty much do whatever you want, and that makes it hard. Online is like being in class, but they're not. And in person, you may as well stay home. There are actual students who need to learn from class instruction and are not getting that. That has to change. Kids will fall behind. Instead, parents are still teaching a subject they aren't educated to be teaching. I'm in support of teachers and giving them what they need, and I think they somehow need time. But that being said, I'm also a parent in support of my kids, and the junior high and high school need to teach those in attendance. It's not okay for a teacher to not interact with them because they're not wanting to be in a classroom. Please help make changes for both students and teachers. Next one is from Randy O'Hara, to whom it may concern, as this is going to be a generic email, my guess is it will never be read. Please do not shut the schools down or reduce time any more than you already have. My son has an IEP. Last year, when the schools closed, it was catching up to grade level. Online learning did not work for him. He needs the time in the classroom with the resources available to him. Closing down on Fridays or reducing classroom hours will only have a detrimental impact on my son. Secondly, in July, the CDC was very clear the best place for our children is in the classroom. The need for structure is available with online learning. Finally, closing the school creates an undue burden on the parents. If you close the schools or reduce the hours, our children need to be cared. My family does not have the financial means to pay for child care 1 day a week. You say you care about kids. However, the only thing I have seen is decisions made in fear with little to no regard for facts. Closing the schools down and limiting time in the classroom is not the best for our children. Next one is from Shauna Sandberg. I want to voice my support of the current in-person learning option available at Murray High School. Last year, I had a junior and a senior at Murray High School when the shutdown happened in March and everything moved online. My students disliked online school. They were great students that lost motivation to learn. With such minimal teacher and student contact, they also found the testing and grading processes, etc., online to take a long time and be cumbersome. Still, they were better than nothing, and we appreciate the heroic efforts of administrators, staff, and teachers to make the option possible. Teachers have always been heroes to us, and are even more so now. But this year, I have a senior, and she is thriving with the in-person on-campus experience at Murray High School. I sincerely hope that that can continue, unless, of course, our COVID numbers necessitate a shutdown. She already lost part of her junior year. I hope her senior year can be as normal as possible. Thanks for all you do. Next one is from Logan Jorgensen. With the possibility of a Monday to Thursday schedule, will the board consider changing short day to full day so the kids have 4 full days in person? Thank you. Next one is from Liz Jorgensen. Hi, this is public comment. Okay. Our family would support a change to Monday through Thursday in-person learning with no Fridays, with the elimination of a short day on Wednesday. If short day is kept along with eliminating Fridays, we worry that our kindergarten won't have the support he needs. Next one is Janet Rowley. I understand that the record or the board is considering modifying the current school schedule for Murray students. As a former educator, I'm sympathetic to the heavy burdens being placed on teachers during the pandemic. I'm likewise concerned about their further limiting in-class hours available, as I feel the classroom provides an optimal learning environment for our students. If dropping a day of in-class learning each week becomes necessary, I would suggest that the current short day be expanded to a regular day, thus helping us regain a few precious hours of in-class learning each week. Thank you for all you do. And then finally, from Jason Wild, I want to offer my thanks and commiseration to all teachers. While I have many frustrations I am about to share, I recognize that they are doing their best in a challenging position. My son, 1st grade, and daughter, 4th grade, are current distance learning students. When we selected online learning this summer, both to keep ourselves and the teachers safe, we were misled by Murray School District. We were led to believe that our students would receive a comparable to superior online experience when compared to the spring. Instead, the students are second-class citizens. My kids have face-to-face time with their classmates and their teacher for 20 minutes a week. Aside from that, there is no interaction with anyone. My son's teacher at least seems to be creating a manageable workload and giving clear instructions. I reached out to many of my daughter's teacher with several concerns and was met with, "What do you want me to do?" There's no more time in the day. She said she forwarded my concerns to the district. I received no response or feedback from them. The frequent feedback promised in the August 15th email is not happening. We get feedback about whether or not our students have completed stuff, but not about their standards of proficiency. We received an email saying we could access grade information in Illuminate. We aren't seeing anything there. Furthermore, school has become a job for my kids. There is little to no fun, connection, or effort to address social and emotional health. I could go on, but I would be beating a dead horse. I'm an educator. My wife is an educator, and my sister-in-law, another educator, is working with my kids 2 times a week. We're able to navigate this successfully, but I imagine many families don't have the same resources we do. We realized that our students would have a different year when we selected online, but we didn't realize we were signing our children up to be treated as afterthoughts. We love Murray District, but we feel like our kids have been left behind. As we consider several options for the spring, we are also concerned because we've seen in some of the recorded videos taking place in the class, an instructor more than once tells students to remove their masks so that they can be heard clearly. Now that we know our kids will receive an adequate online service, we're considering sending them back to in-person. we're considering to send them back in person, we have a worry about teachers following basic health department guidelines. As a teacher currently teaching during the pandemic, I think it is irresponsible to force teachers to pull double duty. I know Murray is paying teachers who opted to take double duty, but they simply don't have the time. This was expressed to me in a phone call with one of my learners' teachers and has been reinforced by the things we're dealing with. What you are having teachers do is failing both them and online students. I have several frustrations with my student's teacher, but I don't blame her. You have put them in an untenable position. I'm asking that you give heavy thought and consideration to what it will take to adjust the distance learning opportunities in order to meet the students' needs and to keep your teachers healthy, sane, and in the profession. That's it.
All right, thank you, Doug. Again, thank you to all those who took time to email and share their thoughts and concerns with us. We are going to turn the time, I guess, over to Superintendent Covington. She's going to review some of our current schedule and maybe additional information, and then we will open it up for discussion.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to our board members for having this special session. Tonight, we are here as a body to talk about looking at our current schedule, as well as the needs that have been expressed for additional preparation time for teachers. The current situation that we find ourselves in was created out of a pandemic, something that none of us have gone through before. Although we did not create this issue, we must own the challenge that it brings to our students, our staff, our families, and our community, and address it in the best way possible given the information we have. We appreciate the board having the courage to take action, knowing that there is no perfect solution that will satisfy every individual need. When we met last week in our study session, there were a few asks of the board to provide information to help better educate you and give you information as we look at, again, our current schedule and the ask by our teachers for additional time in order to adequately do all that they are being asked to do. The first one was an ask that feedback on our students who are not engaging in the hybrid and perhaps why they are not engaging. So I am going to ask Director Missy Hamilton to come up. She has been gathering that feedback from the elementary perspective, and she will share the information on that, and then we'll go to the next one.
Thank you. The question was brought up last meeting about the hybrid numbers. And so currently, and I believe Superintendent shared that with you, that the current hybrid numbers are 597. Sorry, let me grab my other window here. 597. And those, I can break that down even further for you, but they're anywhere in there. At Grant, so the other concern is 5-day-a-week hybrids, right? Which are parents, excuse me, that exercise instead of going completely online because they either missed that deadline or they wanted that ultimate flexibility. At Grant, there is one parent that is exercising the 5-day-a-week hybrid. At Horizon, there are 30, and I have those grade levels breakdown. At Liberty, there are 6. At Longview, there are 7 students. At McMillan, there are 56 families engaged in 5-day-a-week hybrid. In Parkside, there are 60 families, students, not families, students that are doing the 5-day-a-week hybrid. And at Beaumont, there are 15 families doing the 5-day-a-week hybrid. When I asked my teachers this week to break down all of those numbers, all the way from how many times how often are you contacting those families, by what mechanism are you contacting those families, if you're not getting the work return, to what degree of completion is that work return, so I've broken down those numbers. In terms of what barriers, because that was one of the main questions. I identified four main barriers. Out of the 597 hybrid students, there were 15 families or students, 15 students that the teacher identified language as being a barrier to helping those students be successful. 12, I categorized that as parent support when I looked at the notes from the teachers. By that I mean mom is working, or there is a divorce in the family that is either contentious or sharing custody, and there's not that communication piece. So those were those notes that I identified that. Not necessarily parent non-support of school, but just those communication pieces that were not happening in the home. And we identified 3 tech issues in those notes where the Chromebook wasn't connecting appropriately, and so we resolved those over the course of the last 3 days that we were able to identify through those notes. The rest of so I asked the teachers to identify the kids that weren't doing the work, that on a scale of 1 to 10, not doing the work, right? 0 meaning not doing anything, to 10, completing the work on a regular basis. Last week, we gave you the data of 53% were doing the work, 47% not doing any of the work. So we wanted to break that down a little bit further, and we said on a scale of 1 to 10. So from that, we said, okay, so 70%, right? 7, if you did the work and you did it at a 7, we said that's not a problem, okay? So 32% of our students are doing it at a 7 or better, okay? And so here were the themes that were a result of that teachers were saying in their notes. That the students are not watching the videos all the way through or not watching them at all. That they are not completing the entire lesson or not doing the lesson at all. That there are behavior issues, that some of these students had behavior texts previously, and so are at home. They're not able to self-regulate to be able to do the work when they are at home. There are extended vacations that are happening, and then lack of routine in the home to be able to support that type of work. There was concern about some of our special education students that their IEP minutes are not being met on their hybrid schedules. All 85% of our students that were reported, of those 597, are getting at least 3+ contacts, either through Parent Square, email, and phone calls. Of the 597, 22 of those families were contacted via Zoom and successful connections being made there. And so I felt like that was a very positive number. And then finally, the other data that we pooled were interventions, not just with hybrid numbers though, but just interventions in general about this COVID side. And this is pretty alarming data to me as a curriculum director. Out of the total enrollment, Parkside has 133 students that need interventions either in math or language arts. Liberty has, sorry, I needed to add this up. 249 in-person students need intervention and 85 online students need intervention. So add that together. McMillan has 196 students. Horizon has 194. Longview has 92. And Grant has about 250 students that need intervention. This is bordering on 65 to 70 to 80% of our student bodies that need intervention. And that is getting harder and harder to provide either in a hybrid environment or an online environment. We're doing the best we can. Our principals and our coaches are thinking very much outside of the box, but I felt like that was also data that I think would be relevant. Is there other data that you wanted?
So that intervention, that includes in-person and hybrid, that's their total.
That's their total, yeah. Liberty broke it out, but I forgot to add it, sorry.
And what was Beaumont?
I did not have that. I think they sent it to me, but I was trying to scroll through my emails and I just couldn't find it, so I apologize.
And then the 32% you said that we're engaging at a hybrid at a 7 or above.
Mm-hmm.
So we're saying 68% are 7 or below.
Yes.
of the hybrid.
And I could do a quick count, it's like 0 to,
Understood that.
yeah.
I can add to 100, I just want to make sure I understood that correctly.
Well, if you wanted like 0 to 4 or something like that, I can add those up.
But we said, we have 53% engaging, 47 not. If we break it out further, 32% are at the higher and the rest of them are below it.
Okay, yep. So I hope that brought a bigger, better picture to that hybrid data. And I want to thank the teachers on the week that they were doing parent-teacher conferences to break that data down for us at a kind of a deeper level was very helpful for us as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
The other ask from our study session last week was regarding what the junior high class periods would look like, given if we looked at a earlier out model each day. And so I'm wondering how long those junior high class periods would be. I'm going to invite Director Robin Williams up, who has been working with our junior high principals to talk about what they have learned and how they're looking at in a model where if we do, if the board does consider adding a prep time at the end of each day, how that adjusts class minutes.
And really, they came up with 3 possible schedules. One actually reduces the periods only from 40 minutes to 39 minutes. And with that schedule, what they have built, it does tighten down the transition times between classes. They also shaved 5 minutes off of their advisory period. And also they have a lengthier time between the kids moving between lunches and those advisories. And so they were able to build that schedule with 39 minutes. They did have a little bit more luxury, if you will, at building out those periods for 38 minutes, but they were tasked with just saying, what can we tighten up? I did have both principals share with me that they felt like that some of their kids in some of the passing periods are starting to congregate, and they said it might not be a bad idea to push them to get to those next classes. It is a little different conversation, obviously, moving around Riverview versus Hillcrest. And so that was another piece that they talked with me about. The other thing is that they both explored the idea of what would happen if they had a lunch that was later in the day. And we worked with the lunch manager, and she has concerns with putting that at the very end of the day based on how many kids don't take lunch if they're supposed to get it on their way out. And also there were concerns that were explored about kids being hungry. Although I would say that our 2 junior high principals were also pretty creative about what they could access and getting a snack in the middle of the day for students. So with that one that they were exploring, they were able to keep the classes at 42 minutes. So adding back time into the day, even though we were asking for a reduction in the overall day. So I think with that, again, they were able to make those class schedules, the bells, work without a really significant cut from the 40 minutes that they currently have by just looking at some of the other things that were available to make those changes with.
So we're currently at 40 minutes right now.
We're currently at 40 minutes.
Pre-pandemic was at 55.
47 or 45, I think. Yeah.
That's a word we're going to use a lot, right? Pre-pandemic.
All right, thank you to Robin for that. Another question that we had was busing. Transportation is something that we definitely have to consider in this piece because we do need to provide transportation to our students. And so in any model that we look at, we do need to thoughtfully consider how transportation will work. And in Murray City School District, our drivers transport both the elementary and the secondary. We don't have 2 cohorts of drivers going. So there does need to be a staggered. So I'd like to invite our Director of Services up, Dave Roberts, to just talk about how, what he's gone through to look at how transportation will work in these different proposed solutions.
So the one good thing that comes out of this is that we do have less students that are transferring this year than last year. So that does help. So one of the things that we were looking at in transportation is we want to make sure that we are able to get to the schools on time so that the students aren't waiting outside, because that does cause disciplinary issues at the schools when the students are just standing around. So as we look at this, the majority of our buses are servicing our secondary schools. Murray High School has 6 buses that go there. And the one bus that is the farthest away, which is in our southwest corner, that services Riverview Junior High, does not have a Murray High School bus. So that helps in the sense that that is our farthest distance to Murray High School. And so that is set up in such a way that we would not have to have that bus get from that corner of the school district up here to Murray High School. So that does help. So my recommendation is that we give a minimum of a half hour between schools or runs to be able to pick up the next group of students that follow that bus run. Ideally, I would like to see 40, but I think we can compromise at 30 and still make it so that the students are not waiting for a long period of time outside of it. And that's, in the best conditions. So, if we have snow or if we have an accident or something like that, there's going to be some expectations that they may not be able to make it there at the optimal time. But all things being held, nice and even, and with everything being in its normal situation, we believe we can go ahead and make these schedules that we're hopefully proposing tonight work for all students that we want.
So you need 30 or 40 minutes from the time you drop off the elementary until you pick up the
So 30,
secondary?
so 30 minutes between the time that we show up at the school. We'll wait 7 minutes for the students to get out, and then we'll leave. And so that leaves us with that'll give us about 23 minutes to drop off students.
And then how long your pickup time?
So it will all depend on where we're at as far as location wise to get to the next school.
Okay.
So 30 minutes total between, so for example, if we pick up our junior high kids at 1:30, the soonest we would be able to pick up elementary
Or the high school
or
would
the
be 2
high school
o'clock.
would be 2 o'clock. So we need a full half hour.
So you can get kids dropped off and back.
Yep.
Then
Get the kids loaded, get them dropped off, and get to the next school.
That's impressive, because I took that with my kids.
We're not trying to get tickets either. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Dave. Another thing that we would like to notify the board of is Missy spoke about some of the hybrid and online and some of the challenges that people are facing. In our original document, we had asked for a semester commitment for our online families. We would like to allow online families who would like to come back to in-person learning to be able to make that choice at the term. And I would anticipate many of our families may make that decision based on whatever happens tonight, so we haven't sent that out. But we feel like there are a number of our online families who would like to have their students come back for in-person learning. It would be the 5-day in-person learning. So we would like to have that as an option for them to do. Additionally, we know we have, as Missy spoke about, 5-day hybrid families that we could then move into the online mode that would kind of counterbalance that. But I would also like to invite Director Hamilton back up to talk about, we do know the board is aware and the public hopefully is aware, we have in our secondary schools, our educators are doing all 3 models. They are doing in-person, they are doing the hybrid, and they are doing the online. In our elementary, we have our teachers doing in-person and hybrid. And then as you recall, we used some of our CARES money to provide a stipend for educators who wanted to take on the online portion. And so they are doing that above and beyond their contract. And so we wanted to make the board aware, Missy has spoken with her online teachers, some of their concerns, because that very much will kind of play into the discussion the board has this evening.
So on Parkside's intervention numbers, Heather made me aware that the 133 are for in-person kids only, And so if you'll add 63 to that, those are her online and hybrid kids as well. So 133 plus 63 are her total intervention.
We're not adding more, so tell
I know, I was gonna say, I don't have enough fingers and toes. So 63 added to that part, sorry, numbers. So my online teachers, got together, and of course, it all looks good on paper, right? We had thought things completely through. So I have my online teachers, and I have 4 per grade level. A couple of grade levels have 3 teachers because of the high demand of online. And I've had a few PLC meetings, a few faculty meetings, if you will, with my online teachers, and they're spent. They're completely spent. In some cases, some of them have class sizes of course, they have their in-person classes. I have 3 teachers that don't have any physical in-person classes, but they have, so they have 2 sections of online. So in all cases, they have probably between 47 and 60 classes, students. The 2 6th grade teachers actually have 70 students each. Ms. Van Peekum has all of the language arts and social studies and writing, and Mrs. Benedum has all of the math and science, because in 6th grade we typically content specialize. Some of their concerns are not, it's not about the uploading of assignments, because they're already creating that digital content. They're very creative. These are some of the best teachers creating that digital content. Their concern and their fatigue is coming from the feedback that they're giving to their students, so correcting sanity, and I know that the secondary teachers are probably like, I have 200 students. But when it comes to an elementary student, you have 8 different content areas times those 70 kids. And what you do as a teacher is giving those kids really good feedback to make those course corrections in the course of their learning. And that's what makes a student successful in their learning, and that's what makes a really good teacher. And so these teachers are wanting to spend that time course correcting kids, and so they have to take those assignments and really give that feedback. And in the meantime, they're teaching their in-person kids and giving all their heart and soul there, and then they're needing to give that feedback to their online kids. In the meantime, they're getting questions from their online kids and from their families, and they're just not able to, there's just not enough hours in the day. There's just not enough hours in the day. Yes?
Because they have their regular class, also they have hybrid too.
Yes, yeah, so they have the triple modality. And their hybrid kids are getting the same content as their online kids, but they're still getting all of those questions as well.
And they're getting the kids that are coming some days. Remember, coming some days and aren't coming, that bad.
Right. So they're coming and not coming in and out. So I did have, I met with them, and we had long talks, and they talked through the troubleshooting together. And what we have is a whole lot of elementary teachers creating and replicating all of the same work. And then we have students kind of all over that everybody's trying to take accountability for, but nobody really knows where they are. And then behind the scenes, we also have some rostering issues. As much as we tried to prevent it, we met with Superintendent and I, and Jason met with the state and said, here's what we're gonna do. Here's how we need to add them into Aspire and in U-Tracks to make sure that it goes to Clever the right way, and we're still getting all kinds of fatal errors. So, you've got some of these kids in online land that are like, and we're trying to progress monitor them, so we're having to do some really crazy things, and there's some delays that are happening out there, which is a little frustrating. At any rate, I met with my online teachers and I said, talk to me. What do you need? What can I do? And I had 9 of them kind of raise the white flag of surrender and said, I can't do this. I can't go another quarter to make it a semester. And these are teachers that have been teachers of the year. And said, I don't have the stamina. I can't do it. I'm not doing my students in person. I'm not doing my online students any favors at all. So I don't know. I have some troubleshooting solutions that we could talk about. I think it kind of depends on what we look at in terms of time solutions. But at any rate, I've got 9 teachers that I struggle to get the teachers that I have. And so I know that there's fatigue out there in the field, not just from my online teachers, but from all teachers. I know that you've heard them from the field as well. So just wanted to make you very transparently aware of that.
So at our online teachers, you're saying we have on average 4 per grade level, so that's 7 times 4, 28 online teachers?
I have 24.
24.
So I have 30 in kindergarten. I have 4 first grade, 4 second grade, 3 third grade, technically 4 fourth grade because one teacher has 2 cohorts. She doesn't have in-person kids, but she took on 2 cohorts. Same thing with 5th grade. Technically I have 4, but one 5th grade teacher took on 2 cohorts. And then I have the 2 6th grade teachers who do all of the 6th grade.
So just from my sake of understanding, so the 24, 9 of them are saying, I'm STEM.
I'm STEM. And
So that's 40.
short of saying I quit, that's what they said in code.
A third of them then are saying.
Actually, like 40%, so 37% are not going to be good. So that's a lot.
Yeah. And I think that tells a story and highly respected teachers that just were heartbroken to have to say, I just can't do it anymore. It's killing me. And they're not doing their students any favors in their learning.
I'm running out of paper.
Well, that's probably good that I'm almost done then. So those were the pieces of information that we felt were important to share with you tonight based on feedback from the study session last week. I do want to say that our educators are working very hard and they are tired and they are feeling the demands of all of the different modalities we've asked them to do, the new technologies they're learning, and they are doing it, but it is coming at an expense. And it is not just our educators, it's educators across the United States. We see articles on that. So with that, the request that we have had is for the board to look at options where teachers could have some additional prep time. Especially teachers have told us the amount of emails they get at the end of every single day that need to be attended to. That is a big concern. The publishing, they were very grateful for the board giving the additional 30 minutes for the publishing of the videos that they are recording each day. But again, attending to the emails that come in, the feedback that they need to give to students, the responsive communication to parents, and grappling again with new ways of learning that I appreciate. They are really taking that on, but it is taking a toll on our educators. So with that, I will ask President Anderson, I'll turn it back to you. We are here as the district leadership team to be able to answer and address any questions you may have.
I did not ask this question, but I do have a couple additional questions, and I don't know if you'll have the data. As far as attendance, what are we seeing? And it's hard to tell because we have kids on quarantine and we have kids in Jamaica. I don't know if they'll make it there, but
Right, so attendance it's hard to quantify given the students who are not physically in our class. If they are not declared as an online learner, they may be participating in hybrid for the day. Our teachers are working hard to kind of look at that information and decide, talk to those parents and say, I didn't see you log on. Were you really doing hybrid? At our board meeting next week on October 8th, we are going to bring forward a policy, an addendum to our current attendance policy called a learner validated enrollment measure, which will be very clear as to what our teachers will be, how they will be assigning attendance in SIS. So that's a hard one to address. I've tried to pull some data on that. It's just hard to get that exact data because we're not sure, even if they're not physically present, they may be doing it online.
And again, I know you don't have this, but I kind of have a little bit of a sense of the high school just based on comments that I hear from the high school students I associate with, but I don't have any idea at the elementary. Are kids coming at the elementary, or are they exercising hybrid a lot? 2, 3, 4 times a week?
I would say it depends on the school, and hopefully that's a fair assessment. Some schools, you walk in and their classes are quite full, and they have most of their learners in person. I know as a result of some conversations last week in parent-teacher conferences with our secondary, some of those parents are going to have their students come back to in person rather than the hybrid option, just because the hybrid option sometimes doesn't meet the needs of the learner. And those are conversations that teachers and administrators are having individually with students. So it really does vary. I taught a 3rd grade class yesterday, which was super fun. And in that 3rd grade class, there were 9 students. And so, but then I was also at a different school yesterday morning, and I walked in and there were 19 students in a 2nd grade class. So it really does vary, and I would welcome if Robin or Missy would like to come up and share any other data.
Just a few points to add that we've been working on with our data that was given to us when we talk in terms of hybrid students and exercising that option. These numbers that we actually shared with you in our document, it can vary up to 100 more students than what we put in there for the 3 secondary schools. They were going after kind of that middle range that was happening. So for example, with Riverview, they were saying they may be seeing 130 kids gone on any given day. But when we were adjacent to the Labor Day weekend, we saw significantly more in all 3 of our secondary schools. We have started working with the designees at each school on attendance, so that if we're not seeing a student who is supposed to be in person or hybrid, if they're not participating, they're going in and looking at Canvas. And just a day ago started working with Hillcrest, with Ruth Palmer, and reaching out to some parents saying you're on day 6. And the message came from me and essentially just said, we're going to not count you as a student if you get to day 10. And that could mean that you're going to lose your computer and your computer rights. And she got phone calls within that same day based on those messages. So, again, when we're trying to do this guesswork of who's actively participating, we are trying to address not only the kids who are coming, those kids who are learning at home. We're taking a look at whether or not they're active within their Canvas course and completing that. And we still have concerns about the kids who are solely online and not participating as well. And I think the conferences were really good for that. We did have a number of students that were asked to come back. But that was a combination of mainly the online kids, but some of our hybrid kids too.
And do you have any kind of data at the secondary level, how many are not participating online?
And it varies. So again, that one is a little harder for me to pin down, other than if I go into Canvas on any given day, I can tell you how many days it's been since some students have participated. And that's what the 3 schools have designees to track that and to change that. What we could provide for you though is that at the end of each week, and we're actually doing it on Monday, so we're looking for the week previous, we are having a designee go in and look at the Canvas to see if they participated throughout the week. And if they haven't, we're changing that to an X, which then kicks in that notification for parents that we didn't, they weren't excused, they didn't participate, and we're showing them missing. So we could run an attendance report for that, right?
Robin,
Yeah.
is it mostly online or hybrid that the students are not doing their work, or both?
It could be all 3. It could be all 3, yeah. It really kind of depends. I think one of the things that we've sent out communication since, and it's been from me as well as the principals, is that if you are taking your family vacation over Labor Day weekend, you need to notify the school if your student is unable to participate, because I think there was a miscommunication that if you just want to stay home or go somewhere for whatever reason, the students didn't have to keep pace or do their work until they came back. And so we're really trying to solidify that keeping pace if you're exercising the hybrid option. Now, we're also trying to honor that there are these institutions of parents who have said, we've always taken a holiday right around Labor Day weekend as well and have that available. So it's kind of muddy, really, if we were to say, is it hybrid, is it online? And we're really just trying to get after, keep pace, do your work, and let us know what's going on. If you're sick, excused, on vacation, we'll work with you.
That was kind of where my question was going. I know what you and Missy both feel like, your gut feeling. Say a family chose they were gonna come 2 days, are they, instead of taking a side, if they stayed home because they felt like they were sick or something, because we want them to do that, are they, I'll still take another 2 days off because it's easier than getting them there? Like, that's what I'm kind of worried about, like, we took this option, we said Monday, Tuesday, we're in new class, whatever it is. And then Wednesday and Thursday, kind of, that's the ones I really.
See, and I think there's multiple stories, but I think that the critical conversations that our counselors, teachers, and principals have been having, and really had a heightened conversation last week, was to say it's not working. With those kids who are falling through the cracks, like much like Missy's data, if we're looking at students who are not on track for graduation, not on track for passing those courses, to have those critical conversations with individual parents. And I know that Ruth, again, gave me the list of names of the students who, after parent conferences, who is coming back from online.
Yeah, because that's great, because we all know, like, once you get online, it's discouraging, right? Even in a normal situation, especially for graduation and stuff.
Right.
Often kids give up because they feel like, there's just no way I can catch back up. Where they'll really sit down with their counselor, we'll move person ahead for them, but.
Well, it complements too, because of the work that the high school is doing, because there's a criticality with graduation that comes into play. Some of the conversations were as simple as teachers reaching out to us to say, how do we open back up assignments that we closed on Canvas?
Right.
And we had multiple conversations there, enough that we were like, we're gonna put out a mass message to make sure people know how to change that. The other side of that is also sitting with Scott Wahangi and talking about some ways that we can have the kids come back into the school, but then finish out coursework that blends either the materials that we have available through the BYU Independent Study or the Utah Student Teachers Connect. And again, that conversation we just like finalized today to say we want our kids, even if they were home for that entire month and a half, doing online, and now we've had this critical conversation, how do we integrate them into our school system so they're seeing hope and progress forward.
That's great.
So my question probably was to you, Jennifer. As I'm trying to summarize everything that I've just listened to tonight, I'm going to kind of probably simplify it down. And I see 3 issues, and maybe there's more, but these are the 3 that come to mind. We've got a workflow problem. Just don't have enough time in the day to bring all the work that's being expected. We've got an outcome problem. Kids are just not being successful in the curriculum that they're getting, or they're not advancing as we would like them. And we have an engagement problem. And I guess if there's any other problems, I hope there isn't, summarizing them in that sense. So my question would be, and I don't know that we have an answer yet because I just summarized it myself. Do any of our plans really address all 3 of those issues, or are we trying to put a Band-Aid on a wound that just won't heal with that type of Band-Aid?
That's a very good question. I think that's a very good question. I would like to specify that while we do have some issues with the output, and what was your third one? Engagement. There are many who are. So I definitely want to say that we have many families who are as well. So I do not want to discount all of our families who are working very hard within what they've been offered. There are some that it's just not working as well as we wish it would. Do we have something that will solve all 3? Not necessarily. And right now the criticality, the reason that we are here is, again, teachers just are overwhelmed. And so addressing all 3, I think, to get to the other ones, to get to the engagement, there are levels to that. One of the things that we are doing is we are using some of our CARES money to hire some additional personnel to reach out and contact individuals and say, this isn't working, we haven't seen you log in, what can we do to help you? Those are conversations teachers want to have, they don't have the time right now because they're doing everything else. Addressing the engagement and addressing those types of things, we don't have a plan that addresses all three. I think there's some additional layers to that. And I don't know right now if anybody has found a great way to address all three of those.
It seems like if you can address workflow, that should help you with the other two. Because it frees up very easy time.
Will you remember, thank you, to talk, you gotta bring it really close so they can't hear you.
I would just say that it seems like if we can help with workflow, it is going to help with the other two because it frees up time to do a better job at the other two, or not a better job, but I need better in a good way.
I think our educators feel like they can't be everything that they want to be. And by the nature of being an educator, you want to help students. We don't get into this profession if you don't. But it's very difficult when you want to try and help and there's just not enough time to do it. So yes, now, do we have some ideas on some other things? We do have some ideas, but they are some major shifts, which, we haven't kind of thought of, we've talked a little bit about, but I'm not entirely sure at this point if that is the right way to go. So that is a very good way to summarize it, Board Member Cooper. And right now, I can't say that we have a plan that addresses all three.
I didn't, to be honest with you, didn't expect that we would, because I think we were just learning a lot.
Okay, good. I was like, oh,
This last
man.
week as we were doing our research, but
Right.
Yeah, even what Robin just told us,
absolutely.
that's a step we haven't had.
Mhm.
Conversations. Sorry.
Yeah, and next week, I really appreciate the work that Assistant Superintendent Bushnell has done on this learner validated enrollment measure and the guidelines, and that is kind of where Robin is talking, where we're trying to get more, for lack of a better word, attendance accountability. So if it does say they're a hybrid and they didn't engage, then we need to make sure that's being marked as a non-attender.
So as far as the workflow
Mhm.
barrier, do we feel like some of the plans that we have are going to give them enough time to actually significantly impact that barrier? Or do we feel like it's just a baby step direction?
Yeah, that's a great question. In conversations I have had I had a conversation with the Murray Education Association elementary representatives, and I shared with you in our study session that they felt more time at the end of the day would be beneficial. I know that and if Assistant Superintendent Bushnell wants to add anything, he's been out talking to secondary. So will it solve everything? No, but it will solve kind of a critical need right now.
Initial need.
Right, and if you look at surrounding districts, we are not the only district that's had to address this, and just each district has addressed it differently, and so we've seen these modifications and such. And it's going to depend. A good question today was, is this going to be something, if the board decides to make a shift today, is that going to be through the end of the calendar year, through the end of the academic year? And my answer is, we don't know, because we continue to get additional information and things change, and we have a lot more information now than we did on June 23rd. But that each time, it's very situational. My hope is we wouldn't have to make shifts again and again and again, because that's very challenging and hard and difficult on students, on families, on our community, and even on our teachers. So to answer your question, do we think this will give them what they need? I think it will provide them time that they are asking for. I think the majority of our educators recognize this is a different year and they have to devote more time than they have in the past. But it's even above and beyond, I think, what any of us could have imagined.
I understand the teacher's problems.
Board Member Merrill, we just talk right into the microphone. It's very hard thank you.
I understand the teacher's problems because I was a teacher once and I didn't have to worry about this, but I did have to take lots of essays home every night. But my greatest concern is how many students are not having think we have to start looking at maybe bringing hybrid back to the classroom if the family or the student isn't gaining anything. So that's, and as I walked in tonight, I didn't think I would say that, but after listening to the parents and listening to all of you, we have a big problem.
Correct, and I want to publicly acknowledge those teachers and administrators who are having those conversations with those students and those families where hybrid we see that maybe this isn't working as well as they thought, and they're having those conversations and they are welcoming them back into the school. Well, at the same time, I want to, acknowledge that we are still very much in a pandemic situation, and we want to make sure that our parents have a choice to be able to ensure that they feel comfortable, whether sending their students to school or doing the hybrid or doing the online.
I think tonight we've talked a lot about the teachers' needs, and I don't think any of us discount that our teachers need time. We've asked maybe too much of them that they can't do, not by lack of trying, I will say. But we've got a lot of feedback from parents and regarding their students. We have, I can't calculate with all the numbers Missy gave, but 60 to 70% of our elementary is not at grade level. So we have to balance that out with the teachers. I mean, that's concerning. And we know the COVID slide is real. I learned that from Scott. How can we minimize that? And is giving teachers more time, does that solve that problem? Because we owe it to our kids to give them the best education they can in a pandemic year. But we have to have teachers to be able to do that.
So one of my questions, Robin, sorry, you told us a very good explanation of where we can make up some minutes in our junior time. Heather had emailed in during the last meeting of where you can, so we don't lose instructional times. What are we thinking at the elementary? Maybe this is for Missy. I'm sure you have already thought of this, that's why I care. And where we can make up some of those minutes in good instruction time if we do or shorten the day. I know Heather sent an email, but I don't know if that was just some thinking.
No, I talked to some elementary principals too, but I will let. No, go ahead, you probably.
So just to be sure I understand the question, you said if we shorten the day, where do we make up the instructional minutes?
Or can we make up some of those instructional?
Mhm. So it depends on how much you want to shorten the instructional day. What we have to do is a couple of things. So one of the tasks that I gave the principals is to find out, are our teachers on pace with the pacing guides that we established, and we rewrote those pacing guides this summer in light of the pandemic to make sure that we were just focusing on the essentials and making sure that we're just like we're paring it down as far as we possibly can. A couple of ideas that come to mind, and I'm sure that these are probably reflective of what Heather has said, is that we could, oh man, that's tricky. We have to have interventions be a part of our regular school day. That has to happen. We also have to have specials in order for us to have PLCs, so that, because PLCs drives our instruction, right? Like we look at that data, we see how kids perform, and then we make those instructional changes.
Well, and specials bring kids joy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's where they get their art and their
And my
PE.
kids, some kids through a day.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So a couple of things like the Lexia minutes and the Zern minutes, those are things that need to happen at home. I mean, we have extra Chromebooks that for K through 2, that we have one at home and one at school. We need to take advantage of that. It's a blessing that we have that. We're so lucky and fortunate. And so those are things that we can have that be a thing that we turn over to parents and to families and hopefully capture some of those instructional minutes that way. That program that really guides itself, it gives us really good data. And I know we just got done saying that they're not doing the homework at home. But this is different kind of homework because it's just flip open your computer and do, and it guides itself. It's not submitting assignments. It's not self-imposed, and it doesn't require any kind of stuff like that. So those are some ways to capture some time back so that we're focusing on tier 1 instruction. Those are some thoughts off the top of my head.
So at the elementary level, but I think we have two different babies here. We have elementary and we have secondary. I think they're a little bit different. And I think, so let's talk elementary for just a minute. We've got the issue with the online teachers. I mean, we're going to be short 9 teachers at the end of 2-3 weeks. I know there was a discussion of moving those online students back to their original classroom. Give us the pros and cons of that.
Okay, so the pro to that is that instead of 27 teachers, 24 teachers being in charge of 70 students, everybody and then in some cases, some teachers only having 9 students or 12 students or 16 students, everybody gets their regular class sizes back, right? They're 23, 25, whatever. And they know their home group of students like they always have known, right? The disadvantage to that is that they are having to create digital content. The rationale to that is that teachers are already having to create digital content because they have hybrid kids. In some cases, and I read you the hybrid numbers, the 5-day-a-week hybrid numbers, in some cases, teachers already have 5-day-a-week hybrids that they're having to create digital content for anyway. Here's a mitigation. And this is not something that I've chatted with a ton of people about, and that is we continue the online teachers that are left, we continue to keep them. And we continue to have them post their content because they're already creating it, right? We continue to have them post their content. They post it to their classroom. And then when they post it, they also post it to a bank, okay? And then if you're a 4th grade teacher that can't create or doesn't want to create their own digital content for their group of kids, they go to the 4th grade bank and they pull that down and they post it to their Google Classroom. Now, it might not replicate what they're doing with their in-person kids, but it's digital content. And that 4th grade teacher still has to provide feedback and grades on that digital content that they're reusing, right? And I know that the union had said and mentioned that they would like to have like a bank of online content. So they would be using this content that was created by somebody else. It might not be replicated of what they did in person, but it's online content that they're going to be providing feedback for to their 23 kids. Not this online teacher doing it, but they're doing it for their kids.
Based on pacing, it should be.
It should be,
Because
yeah.
it might be a different style, and maybe science is your strongest. You grab these lessons that are science, because that kind of flows your mind to come up with science. Well, they have 8 content areas, like, you can't be a genius at every one of them. They all have things they're best at.
And we would only be doing the core content areas uploading.
Right.
And so, it's really easy to pace math. Math, we are much more in pace and aligned than we are in language arts. Language arts, part of that is we have a split adoption, that pacing is all over the place. But that's okay, right? Like our online kids aren't missing out because they're getting content. It just might not be the same content that our in-person kids are getting. So that is a solution that we could do. Now, for our teachers, that feels a little weird because it's a control thing, right? It is kind of 2 different contents, but you have the content and then you just need to be familiar enough with what that teacher has posted so that you can provide feedback and answer the questions from parents. If you don't like that, then you're gonna have to record your lessons and post that along with whatever digital content you did in class, which is a lift. But that is a solution that replicates what the junior high and the high schools are doing. It also would be, we would have to communicate very clearly with our families that, you know, that kind of again, still triple duty for our families or for our teachers. So having weekly Zooms or daily Zooms, that's just not feasible. It's not feasible for our teachers to do that. We're not truly an online school system that does that kind of thing.
Well, and if we did move them back, that solves your online, not solves, but helps with your online teachers, but our teachers now are getting more students.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
their
so
class might go from 9 to 26.
yeah, they would get their regular class that they had originally been assigned their students anyway back. And in special ed terms, our special ed teachers at the assigned school, even though that student might be in an online class at this school, this special ed teacher is having to accommodate that student in that school who is in this person's online class. And so that's been a challenge and tricky. Whereas if all of the kids were back, we could very easily, special ed teacher with homeroom teacher can be communicating a lot more frequently and providing our services now.
Well, they already know because they're there with their other kids. They're in
Yeah,
person.
so they're able
They're
to,
homeschool.
they're at their homeschool with their homeroom teacher, and that communication bridge isn't quite so
So
bad.
to be clear, this is not.
Yeah, to be clear, this is just ideas, we're just having ideas
But
sessions here.
then there is the possibility, if you felt really strongly about online, like I know Elizabeth did her online, that you could come back and be assigned to your homeroom teacher and be a 5-day week hybrid. And still, if you thought safety, you wanted to be in your home, that would be an option.
Well, we essentially would get rid of online, right? Because you'd be 5-day-a-week hybrid, or
Well, you'd be an online student.
yeah, but the teachers would have 5-day-week hybrids, or 2-day-week hybrids, or 3-day-week hybrids, or
Or no hybrids.
and that's another, you bring up a good point, is, I mean, I think your data showed 32% are out of 7 or above, so we do have 32% of our students performing. And that's questionable, like, what do you say performing, just doing the work?
Yeah, and
I mean, are they getting the content? I mean,
yeah,
I can do the assignment, but I don't understand it, I mean.
Forward, or we just.
yeah, and in week after next, we start our benchmarking for first quarter with all of our assessments and Illuminate. That will give you some really good data to let you know about mastery and proficiency.
So there's another option that I'm just bringing up all the options that have been talked to.
So, I would be remiss if I didn't relay some information that's coming in, just so that you know, because I'm getting a lot of information from teachers that are feeding us information, and they would like me to reiterate that they are collaborating, they are dividing and conquering, but what they are in need of is time to provide quality feedback on a daily basis to their students. They very much advocate that they are okay with the work, the workflow is a lot, but what they need is that time to be able to speak, give that feedback to their students. And they are trying to find creative ways to divide and conquer. It doesn't solve, the online issue, as well as we have a lot of chatter with parents saying, please do not take away the options, as I am really looking for the safety of my children. And so, again, I would feel remiss if I didn't say kind of what we're seeing, because I think that's important that we hear those voices, so.
And I appreciate that, thinking outside the box. Again, we're still on elementary, not moving on to secondary. One of the concerns is there any way, and I know we looked at the dollar amount and it was a little scary, can we keep the kids in school and be creative of where we move those specials and where we move those, interventions that they stay in school the same amount of time, but we free up the teachers that hour, you know? And we know there's a financial cost to it. We look at just the securing specials. But we're adding people. Can we add them as resources and adjust the schedule and say, you know, you got, instead of PE for 20 minutes, now you're 45 minutes and that teacher gets 45 minutes. I know there's a cost to that, but
It comes at a cost of about $750,000. So that was the number you guys gave.
Yeah, that's ensuring that special. And what that would mean then is that PLCs would have to happen at some point, whether that's after school or on the Wednesday or something. Because specials isn't planning, specials is PLCs, and specials is progress monitoring and things like that. So, but you know, you rob Peter to pay Paul, right? So, but yeah, it's 700. We calculated that out.
any other questions on elementary, kind of where we're at? I mean, I think we all know that we need to give the teachers more time, but it comes at a cost, and our students are struggling. We know that based on the data you gave us. But our teachers are struggling as well. So
I calculated the instructional hour, my computer just died. Do you have that? If you can look under one board options, I think I shared it with you. So on a Friday, a 4-day a week, no, keeping the students 5 days a week, and releasing them at 1:30, I believe, was 530 hours of instruction. Doing a 4-day a week and keeping students to 3:15 with Friday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever off, 4 days a week and keeping students to 3:15 was 653 hours of instruction. And then the newest option, which was a 2:15 release versus the 2:45 that we have now, and then a Wednesday or Friday, whatever it is, at 1 o'clock, gave 630 hours of instruction. So, and that's because of all the Fridays that we have in our calendar, our new calendar that we adopted most recently. And so 630 hours. I mean, we don't want to shave instructional time off, but we also want to look at the least amount of impact. So ironically, those are where the numbers were.
Well, I think I would worry, and this is, I would worry about. Remember to please talk very loud. A day that, like a Wednesday or a Friday off, because then it seems like it's the end of the day stuff, and you need to get back with the parent on how to do this assignment or how to get in, then it isn't gonna wait till Friday.
Yeah. You don't make instructional decisions at the end of the week. You make those changes.
It sounds like that's what we're hearing, is it's more those, oh no, I didn't know how to do that and I needed help today, not. Is that right? I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing from, like, it sounds like from parents and teachers, scheduling would be easy to have just one whole day off, because you would just make childcare arrangements for a day. But does that help the workflow problem if they're just having to put it off? Are they just gonna stay longer and later every day and on the Friday? That's what I'd be worried about.
I talked to a couple of teachers and parents during my due diligence review, and it's 50-50. I mean, who wants early out and who wants 1 day a week off? Some of the reasons for early out is they need time every day. And the kids, in their mind, learn better with, in the mornings with that schedule every day. And then some of our special ed kids do better with the schedule every day. Some of the other reasons of the 1 day a week off is it gives them a catch-up day, you know, to get going. It's easier for childcare versus getting out
Yeah, it's split. Yeah, it is very split.
So who has the answer?
Where's that magic 8 ball like Russ Brand?
I will say, I do not think because we being the board, have decided to give parents the option of bringing, I don't think that now's the time to jump off of any of those 3 things. That's been something Murray's kind of been the flagship on is, and I don't know what we're gonna do with the 9 teachers, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But that's kind of been the flagship of, hey, Murray's gonna give choice and it's not change. And so for families, I'll use this again as an example, that have said, okay, at least for the first semester, that's the plan for the year. That's the plan, and I know and I feel good about that as a family. I don't feel good about pulling that out from anybody, or the hybrid plan, or the in-person plan. I think that's where we're seeing a lot of problems with other districts, is they're pulling whole systems out.
Whole options.
Yeah, whole options out, yeah.
On the,
That's just me.
on the online teachers, do we, just thinking outside the box, do we have enough data and enough stability in our classrooms that we could pull some more teachers to be dedicated online? So that they're not doing both? You know, because you mentioned the 9 kids in a classroom, can we make that 15 in a classroom and consolidate teachers? I don't know, I don't have numbers.
Or do you guys really feel like, I mean, it's so be really interesting at the quarter and then the semester.
And that's something we've looked at. I think this is kind of a next level thing to look at, is how do we address that? I have heard from a couple of online teachers who want you as a board to know that while there are some challenges, there are some that are very much enjoying the online teaching. And they ask that I please let you know that they do enjoy the online teaching. So yeah, that's, we don't know. And, you know, we need to open up that option to see how many would like to come off online learning, because we have been very, you need to wait till the semester, you need to wait till the semester. But if it's better for our students to come back into the classroom and that's what their families feel like is best for them, I think we need to honor that at the term rather than at the semester. So our numbers may shift. We do have some options we may need to look at. You know, we could shift some resources around in schools that perhaps have lower numbers of students and might leverage some of those teachers to be online. We would have to look at that, and that's kind of the next step of the puzzle that we would definitely need to address.
So if we're just thinking at elementary, it sounds like, if I sum it up based on all this, is they just need more time. Is that kind of what we're thinking?
I think initially that's fair.
Initially, and then the next level is addressing these other issues, the online, as we get some of our benchmarking back. Maybe some of the kids can't do hybrid, like you said, Robin, this just isn't working for you. Because we just can't go with 60–70% of our kids not. It's just unfair to the students. That's what it is. Is there any other, Robin?
Well, and I just want to speak for secondary schools and reiterate that we are proud of the relationship that's been developed by giving parents ultimate choice with online, hybrid, and in person, and in giving that ultimate flexibility so that if it does feel like one area is not working, whether that's a teacher saying academically, I'm seeing the struggles, or that's a parent saying it's killing me every single day that I'm coming home and they haven't submitted what they need to do. And I think that, again, our schools, our efforts have been along the lines of making sure that we're communicating both directions. And I think for the secondary school, one of the really nice tenets of that is that after parent conferences, as we had families want to bring their kids back because we had held them in the schedule with that particular teacher, there is not that hiccup that might be felt with some of the other considerations that go into looking at the elementary school. And when it was mentioned tonight about moving the kids around in their classes, I want to remind all of you what it feels like to be a kindergarten mom. Because I had to let a teacher go because we didn't have the population, and they said, we're going to pull your teacher. It was not a pretty time to have to say, we're gonna divide this teacher's class up into these two classes. So that's just a side note for you to give consideration to about timing with students, that we want to minimize that impact. And I think the younger kids especially, that becomes a hardship. What I want to come back to though right now is just a plea that both elementary and secondary, we're asking for consideration of our teachers' time. And there's a whole messy process that is behind that. And I acknowledge everything from the story of the teacher who maybe is way flat with their Canvas instruction and not interacting with the kids like they should. I acknowledge that there are some extraordinary things going on. In fact, I would love in a couple of weeks to share our student-led conferences, because I was very pleased with how many positive comments our students had about what is happening for them in school. And we extended that to our online, hybrid, and in-person kids to participate in those student-led conferences, and asked them to sit side by side with parents and to give us some detailed feedback. But I want to come back to what we're talking about right now, which is a plea for the school board to consider the proposals of giving time to our teachers. And as the secondary director, I can tell you the same thing that you've probably experienced in emails and letters and conversations this week. I have had those same conversations with teachers and administrators, and I said, tell me which one works better for you. How do we get after the critical nature of our secondary teachers who are being asked to sustain all three modalities? And remind you, I know, well, you'll remember this, that some of our teachers have 150 to 200 students who they're grading papers for, providing feedback for, and sustaining motivation and engagement for, and they have critically said they are drowning. And they don't feel like they're doing a good job, and it is centered on the fact that we have the regular instruction, if you will, and we have the creation of Canvas and things that make it available and live or connected or something for those students who are online and hybrid. And teachers, the formula has always been, I'm going to teach in person my class. And then those kids who still are struggling with that concept, I'll let these students work, I'm going to pull these kids over, reteach. Hey, maybe I'm going to go back and teach the whole class again, because all of them were struggling with it. And what we have now is a huge wall, because the teacher teaches, and they may have 9 kids, they may have 30 kids that they reteach or sustain them with. They end their day, and then they open up email, or they get the phone calls or the Zoom conferences, and they're doing individual instruction in many cases, because that student who may be hybrid is trying to keep pace and come back the next day. They are very concerned about their ability to have those connections with the students, because day to day they may not have the same kids there that they had the day before, but yet it's a complicated concept that they're teaching. So I could probably give you 100 stories. I know you've had dozens of emails this week, as have I, and it does come back to that plea for time. Now here's the thing that you might, I'm glad you don't have tomatoes or something to throw at me, because I can stand before you with Switzerland, and I can tell you that there's been a lot of thought given from our principals and myself to put in to say, can we give more time each day, 5 days a week, to our teachers? And we can mess with the schedule, and we can come back with something that is our best choice at this point in time. I also know that I have a lot of teachers who've asked to have a Friday, or a patron suggested a Wednesday. We just had a comment online that suggested a Monday. I don't know that we really care. They're just pleading for that time to be able to say, we've got to figure out how to sustain all the things that we are doing for our online and hybrid kids while maintaining the integrity of our regular classrooms. So, you know, I actually today was trying to crowdsource, like ask my coaches, my principals, give me your vote, just choose only one. And I can't, as a board, tell you that you have to land on one. I think that that is where you can look at the two and think about the things that we have shared with you and think about maybe the impact on our teachers and our families with each of those decisions. But my plea is that we come back to this conversation about time with our commitment as a district office team that will continue to scratch at and worry and go after our students who we are still continuing to lose. You called it what was it called today? The pre-COVID. What was the term that was being used?
Pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic. So that we can get back to a pre-pandemic status would be nice.
Pre-pandemic. And do you feel, just asking, because as you talk to some teachers, the timing, and it's always been that way, for preparation is different in elementary versus secondary. The secondary got more time this year even than the elementary prep time.
The high school did.
The high school, yeah. I
And
know,
I mean,
there's all
because
three of
I-
them,
yeah.
funky, they're
And I
all
don't-
different.
And I'm even reticent to say that because it's a part of their scheduling. So, part of, well, and what they do is they take on larger class sizes to be able to sustain a block schedule.
And that's been.
So, but I do know that when this conversation really started erupting, it was on behalf of our junior high teachers.
But our secondary, our high school still in the same?
They are. And again, it goes right back to that formula that they don't feel like with sustaining all three modalities, that they are able to get after those individual conversations that are needing to happen for online and hybrid kids. And in fact, I think when teachers call in tears, a lot of times it's an upset parent because I put out that they could have the 24 hours before they responded, and the parents are upset because the student wants to come back the next day or the following day, and they haven't gotten that support that they desperately need.
Well, and
Jared actually has a kind of a cool idea for that, but Jared has to give us the money. Of like a tutoring line where if he's helping his girls with all, we all know math is different. Math is not different, the way they teach math is different. If he gets something to help his girls and he's like,
I don't have a friend to phone at 6 o'clock at night.
yeah, so it's.
Teachers are gone, yeah.
well, they have the math lab. Did you not watch Spartan this year?
Yeah.
The Spartans, that's my trailer, by the way, on my home.
But I thought it was a cool idea so that teacher didn't get the calls at 8 o'clock of how do you do this algorithm? You had some tutoring, like, I mean, some of our high school kids could do it for our elementary school kids, but it would have a cost.
Well, we've been problem solving with that as far as hiring maybe Spanish-speaking tutors that can help, and especially because math is the class that you see still being taught with students, and a lot of times they're not coming for any classes except for possibly a lab class, a CTE class, or a math class to get that assistance. So, you know, I asked a couple of teachers about Friday, which is kind of what's been bantered around, and how would Friday help when you have Jaron Cooper who wants you to respond on Monday night to help with work.
Right.
One of the things that I hadn't really considered but was explained to me is that if they had that online day, that they could tackle those hard concepts, whatever that might be, but also to do the front loading of their classes where they upload the direct instruction. That would give them the opportunity then on any particular day to spend that afternoon or even the morning, because they're expected to be there before school too, in calling back families and answering questions. So
Brian, that gives me a big question. If they're front loading all of the classes for next week, why do I need to attend and where did in-person instruction go?
That's what, because our idea was originally presented to us was, so I teach, turn your mic, I teach English 7 and I teach English 8, and I'm gonna record it lifetime, and then I'm gonna upload it at the end of the day, not do them all on
and I have real heartburn if we have kids in class, why am I front loading 5 or 10 lessons and having them sit there and watch? I have heartburn with that because we have proven in-person instruction is the best instruction. So why is that okay?
Well, and again, I think what you see in any school, and I had opportunity to spend time with Riverview, that's not every teacher in every classroom. And I do see strategies with some strong PLCs where they do feel like one teacher does a better job with that. And so those videos are oftentimes created ahead of time. I also know of a history teacher who's doing that, where she records everything on a Sunday and pushes that out, but she's still very much teaching throughout the week and answering questions and talking with students.
But are they
Same teachers doing a Zoom
listening to the uploaded lecture? Or are they having an in-person lecture where there could be a discussion and a question and answer?
And I think that depends a lot on the teachers. So I think that when I hear or see somebody who's saying watch in the classroom, that may be 1 or 2 classrooms, period, in a school.
So I guess we just want to be clear, we're hearing you about time,
Right,
but that's the things we're still hearing
Concerned
in
about.
our neighborhoods is
right.
they're walking in, and it could be 3 out of 20 or 3 out of 30, I don't know. But that's the part.
The biggest
The
complaint
parents
that we
are
get
No, the-
as a secondary,
And, yeah,
huge. If I talk to anybody, they're gonna bring that up to me.
and.
So that gives me a little bit of heartburn because that's not what our model was set up to be.
Well,
But I
again,
understand
yeah.
the teachers are drowning.
Yep. So the one
But-
teacher that I did observe, because I had heard that about the person, what I did see happening was exchanges with the students within the classroom, and it is somebody who records their videos the entire week on a Sunday and uploads those. However, she also is spending time on Zoom. And she has open hours on Zoom for families to call and to ask for help or have those conversations. So that time when we would normally say upload videos, she does her videos at the beginning of the week and chooses to have a relationship with students via Zoom who are hybrid and online.
And I guess our concern is that's when you can see the big picture, you can see that,
Right.
but from individual families, they're seeing something else. So we all can say,
Right.
hey, we have,
And I think
some
that,
really teachers that are doing this great and interacting, but if you're a mom, if you're the mom of the kid, your daughter is AP honor student.
she's a senior.
You would be like, hey, I want her to have really good instruction. So that's where we're hearing it from parents.
Right. Well, and I think that it doesn't discount
Right.
the amount of work that our teachers are doing. And I think that sometimes when we have a teacher or a story, that becomes a story across all of our classrooms. And I think that the other thing that I feel needs to be noted for our teachers is some of it does depend on what they're teaching. It really does depend on what they're teaching. And there are classrooms where teachers very much, I'm going to go back to the example of the high school chemistry teacher a year ago, pre-COVID, did exactly that. Preloaded the videos. He said it's your homework, and he said when students didn't watch the videos at home, he expected them to watch it in his classroom because he was doing hands-on and labs in his classroom. And I use that only as an example to say, I can't categorically say whether that is a teaching practice that I need to address or the principal needs to address, or if that's something that makes sense in the big picture of things. I do know that one story I was told when I had the opportunity to see the classroom and ask what was happening after school, that person is spending open window for Zoom time for any of the students, including the ones who were in the class during the day, to reach back out. So, and again, I don't know, I think that those are messages. We have enough teachers who are online tonight. Those are messages we can carry forward, that that's a concern. We already have on our staff development schedule for the 21st of October. The coaches and Claire Meyer and I have been working on what checklist for Canvas, and they are doing a self-rating with pictures We've been going into teachers' Canvas courses to take exemplars to show them. And with that self-rating, it's going to help us then frame what we need to do next. But what we're putting forth is a rubric of what an A Canvas course looks like for our teachers, and then asking them to measure their own grades against how that is looking, and then to have us help them know how to move that along. So these concerns are also things that we're really very willing to address. I heard Missy the other day talking about personal messages, and I said to Jen, I said, I think every one of our teachers at the secondary level could really do a great job. If they would just even start the week with a personal message. Some already do, and some do it daily, but I think that any of our teachers who are very much flat in their Canvas, that could go a long ways in just saying, how are you? And let's talk this week.
Well, just think about, when we were all online, and I had lots of kids tell me, hey, it was cool, their baby, came in the room, or their dog came in the room, and it made the teacher a person. And so they had a different experience with their teachers than they've ever had before, because all of a sudden, oh, there's their house, there's their apartment, like, oh, that's cool, they're a person. So that, I think that would go a long way. How are you? This is what my weekend was, maybe something.
Thank you.
All right, lots of information to digest.
And I just want to say one thing really quick, because again, I would be remiss to not advocate for elementary and to say, we don't know what the whole online teachers needing to step down and what that model will look like, but what we do know, and you guys said it, they do need more time. They need that time to give feedback, whether that's to whatever students are in front of them, online, on hybrid, whatever that looks like. They absolutely need more time, for sure.
All right. I think we're all at that agreement. I'm gonna make each of our district people get to come up and say, if you vote extra time, do you feel it's better for kids and teachers, 4 days a week or more time each day? So, I'm putting them on the spot. Doug and, Dave,
You really?
and Rich, if you want to come up, you can, but,
No, I want to hear what they say.
our secondary, so we'll start with Superintendent Heather. Because I know we've all talked to a lot of people, a lot of teachers, a lot of staff, a lot of parents, and I'm gonna tally this up.
That's a very loaded question, and we talked about this, and I said, they're not gonna ask us, so I am really sorry. As the superintendent and with the information that I have received as I have spoken with teachers, I believe my preference, again, I don't know, there's not one best, because if there was a best, everybody would be doing it. My preference would be to give more time to teachers at the end of each day so that they would have the opportunity to engage in all of the responses that they need to do, as well as some additional planning time. And for that reason, I think that if we don't give them that extra time at the end of each day and we go to a digital day, my concern would be teachers would still have the same amount of work after school each day, responding and doing the uploads, and they wouldn't have the time, because we would have to recapture that 30 minutes of time that we have already given them, so we would need to return to our original schedule. So in an effort to ensure that we can support our teachers as well as our students who need adequate opportunities for learning, I would say my preference would be to give additional time each day to our teachers.
I agree for all the parents that would have child care and there's no one to take care of their child on Friday. So 5 days.
But some parents have said it's easier to get childcare 1 day a week than 2 or 3 hours at the end of each day.
Like,
So,
by one hand.
yeah, so that's hard.
Who are you calling on that?
Scott's been quiet in the back.
Scott, you're up. Assistant Superintendent, assistant.
First of all, let me acknowledge once again, as if we haven't already acknowledged enough, that it's a very difficult decision. It's difficult for a couple of reasons, I think. We know that teachers need time. Knowing that, teachers, in my opinion, a teacher that likes to have uninterrupted time would probably do best having a Friday to work on things and get things done. A teacher that likes to get things done daily at the end of the day might prefer having time each day, a little bit of additional time each day. And so it'd be unfair for me to simply share my opinion based on how I work and how I do things. When I go out and ask in the field, it's very much split like we've talked about. So ideally, what we would ideally like to do is for those that need uninterrupted time, do the Friday thing for them and do the every day a little bit out for those that want to take care of things daily. And that's impossible. That's an impossible schedule to have. This is what I do believe. I believe our teachers are under a lot of pressure. I believe they're working really, really hard. And I believe that they would be grateful for any additional time that you would give them. And they would make it work. And there are going to be some that'll be disappointed because they didn't get their choice, because they wanted a 5-day week and they got a 4-day week, or some that wanted a 4-day week and they got a 5-day week. But I believe our teachers will rise and they'll be grateful regardless. And so, while there's some disappointment that comes with that, there's some appreciation that comes in the fact that you looked at this, you're willing to make an adjustment in the schedule. And I believe this with our parents. I believe that our parents will get a better education for their students because our teachers are better prepared and feel like they can handle the workload. And hopefully that's reflected in what they see in their students. And ultimately, it's a win-win. That a parent can see a difference, and that's the challenge. You know, when we say, hey, we can give more time, because we want a better product, we want a better education for our students. And if we can provide that, the parent and the student win, and the teachers win. And we're trying to just, again, find that balance. Balance has been a huge word for the last several months. Where is that balance? Where's the balance between health and education, economy and health, all of those things? Again, what I believe is I believe our teachers will be appreciative. I believe that. It may not make everyone happy right off, but they will be happy to have time. The decision, now I've skirted the decision, right? I know how I work personally. And I'm probably better doing a little bit every day and trying to keep up with it every day. But that's just a single individual, and I don't feel that I could adequately represent 350 teachers out there by me saying that I have a personal bias to that. I wish it were more clear to me on if one of those two schedules actually rises to the level that I could see where this would make a difference because of the way we do it here. I haven't been able to find that, or something hasn't surfaced to me yet to understand that. I don't know if that casts a vote by what I've said or not. Would you like any more commitment from me? I'm trying to be as non-committal and express my feelings the best that I can.
Well,
it's hard.
And I know you expressed how you as a person would work, but maybe we need to approach it. What is best for our students?
What do you think?
Because we know for our teachers, it's better 50-50. I really think it's pretty 50-50, that they'd rather have time at the end of the day or one day. So what is best for our students?
So I'm going to say this again, and I don't know where the masses fall, but I know that a few students have flourished going online. For whatever reason, that worked for them. And I've heard those stories. I've also heard the casualties of going online and not being able to keep up and those kinds of things. So the additional items that we need to take into consideration, or you as a board probably should consider. How does this affect teacher time like we've talked? How does it affect parents and their schedules and their educational and home life and that kind of thing. And most importantly, how does this affect the education of our students? Again, like I talked about last time, I don't know that we can expect to be at the levels that we wish we were because we're in a pandemic year, but how do we reduce and minimize the gap? How do we give students a good quality education? The education, the best that we can given a pandemic year. And I think that should also be at the forefront of the decision making. And so does that ultimately result in a 5-day shortened each day a little bit and give more time? Or does that result in a Friday where there's time? That's the question that everybody's asking the 5 of you at this point. So, and I apologize that I don't have any more clearer, better information other than I do believe that our teachers will be appreciated.
Okay, thank you, Scott. One consideration, if we do look at the 4-day, that I think is a big consideration is our staff. Our bus drivers, our paras, I don't know, we probably still have, food service, maybe not as much, but that is a consideration, yes. That those,
Jen sent that out to us, but I think maybe David pointed that out,
so that would be a financial, problem for them.
Was that you, Dave, that had given that information?
So,
I think the students need 5 days a week of lunch. Put our this.
well, we would still serve lunch, yeah.
Could our bus drivers deliver food on Friday?
I don't know what
That's what Brianna's been doing, hasn't it?
Yeah, we have actually been taking meals over to 3 locations, 3 apartment complexes for those students that are online.
do we have a lot of people, online kids taking those lunches?
Those 3 stops, we have about 30 to 40 on the first, about 18 to 20 on the second, and about the same amount on the third stop.
So a good amount of kids doing that. I just lost my train of thought. I was thinking of something. Oh, before we go to others, looking at the physical health, we really haven't addressed that much. I don't think that's as big of a concern based on our data so far in elementary schools, but in our definitely our high school. Is there a benefit physically to less time daily or 1 day off? And I don't know if any of us have had that answer, but it's just something to consider.
It's an extra day without a mask on.
Yeah.
Well, then it's an extra day where the building is empty from students, I guess, but I think that's gonna be hindsight.
All right, Robin.
So should you have to follow suit with other districts with, reduced time? We at one time had a strategy. If you think in terms of the high school, we had talked about AA Wednesdays off, BB with cohorts of students, and we had to alternate kids. And we had come up with about 10 other iterations of that as well. So, I mean, I don't know that having kids 5 days a week or having kids with Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I don't know that that really reduces your exposure risk to COVID.
The reality is,
I
if
don't
you give
know
a
either.
Friday off, they're going to eat together.
But there's, having a 17-year-old, they're together, you know, every day, so.
Yeah, and so, I don't know that it.
I just thought it was something that we really, I mean, we need to have that physical health and
Right, but I don't know if there's.
as a consideration. Robin, while you were up there, you didn't give us your quick 4-day or extra
I
time.
gave you like lots of things.
Yeah, you gotta go one or the other.
I think they're all feeling maybe health.
Missy?
Just put on your director cap as an elementary director. So I recognize that so teachers have 30 minutes right now. We would be affording them potentially 30 more minutes a day, which is an hour. And then on Wednesdays, another 2 hours and 2.5 hours.
We gave them an additional half an hour, but they had a little time at the end of their day before contract time.
Right, and then if we do a 1 o'clock dismissal at 1, a 1 o'clock dismissal, and then that goes to 3:45 for contract time, so that'd be 2 hours and 45 minutes, and then an extra hour every day.
We're not talking about a 1 o'clock dismissal.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I haven't seen a 1 o'clock.
2:15.
The 2:15
No,
dismissal.
but we had Wednesday.
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 Oh, I apologize.
Sorry, 1
I
o'clock,
apologize.
sorry, 1
I'm
o'clock
sorry.
dismissal
You're right, the 1
on
o'clock
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
That's 2 hours and 45 minutes on Wednesday.
So it's split. I'm gonna upset half of my teachers and I'm gonna make half of my teachers happy. So I apologize for the other half. I'm gonna split the middle because 630 hours, if we do the 2:15 dismissal with the 1 o'clock Wednesday, is the right thing to do. Because the time every day, I believe, is what families and students need is that frequent feedback every day versus the Friday or Wednesday or whatever day of the week in chunk. And I think Scott was right. It depends on how you work. But I do believe as an instructional leader, that frequent feedback on the daily is what is best served for our students and learning.
Thank you. Doug and Dave. Kelly, do you want to go first? We're just going in order here. Rich, do you want to make a comment?
Rich, we want your business.
Does it financially benefit us? There's no financial
Either way.
consideration either way.
All right, Dave.
All right, so my stance, I think, is pretty clear. Everything we do is for the students. The students are not going to learn if the teachers aren't there, right? If the teachers can't engage,
Dave, can you please make sure it's really close to your mouth?
if
Thank you.
the teachers can't engage, they can't give the students the best education. So in my perspective, if I was the king for the day, I do Monday through Thursday, no early out Wednesday, and have the students get out a half a day on Friday. And the reason I say that is a couple. The continuity is there, Monday through Thursday. Fridays, which tends to be a lot of activity days, the kids are getting out at 1 o'clock anyway, right? To go to games or whatever. If they're out at that time, they're not losing any instruction time. And our employees are still working on Fridays because they still serve lunch and they still have to transport these kids home. The time that we're losing on Friday is made up on Wednesday by having them get out at 2:15 instead of 1 o'clock. But the continuity is there, so the parents can plan Monday through Thursday, they know exactly what time the kids are getting out. There's not this different day in the middle of the week. And then Friday, the more we can keep the kids in school without pulling them out for extracurricular activities, I think helps too.
We forgot to tell Dave that we had that discussion here. We've been down that road before. So you threw a loop in it, but we've all been on that.
I'm probably the least qualified person here to be giving my opinion about it.
But you get a lot of input.
But I do. Yeah, so, and the PR guy always sits in the middle, right? So I'll straddle that fence as much as I can for as long as I can. Thank you, Scott. And that's what I'm going to kind of stick with as well. I think that the both of them there is no really awesome options right now, but like Scott said, I think if we can give the teachers any time at all, I think they're going to be appreciative. And I really believe that too. I know our teachers have big hearts and they want to do the best thing that they can for their students. And that's going to improve, I think that is going to improve the quality of the work that they do. And thus improve the quality of work that we get from our students. That's my prediction. But of course, this is all new, and so we're hoping for the best, and that's all we can do at this point. I really like the fact that we have not been jumping around. I don't think that's a good way to manage your learning plans or options. I think parents need something that's predictable. And so I hope whatever we decide, that we can really try to stick with it as long as we possibly can for the sake of our students, for the sake of our parents, and for our teachers altogether. Having said that, I think somebody said that the way that they best work is to have that extra time off at the end of the day, and then another person said, well, I like it at the end of the week. I'm kind of a end of the week type of a person. And I've changed my opinion back and forth since we've been in this meeting. I've been reading the comments online, and I've been trying to absorb as much as I can in my unqualified experience. But my feeling is, for me, that I like to batch things. I like to do a lot of work that I can do kind of all at once. And so having an extra day as a teacher, I think would be effective for me if I were teaching, to kind of batch things together, plan them as much as I could, and then deliver and prepare and leave as prepared as I could for those 4 days. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Kelly?
So first, I'm just gonna say that I think with our 3 options, I think we need to keep those. I think those have been very beneficial in many different ways, whether it's to keep your kids safe or an option for those kiddos that want to be online, and we didn't have an online school before, so they were leaving us to go other places. I think we found that students with IEPs have been successful online only, and that may have been worked out better for them for many reasons. But I also think we have the different options for families, and we've seen each family be successful with that. So choice is, I want that to stay
Can I
there.
just ask you a question?
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you this earlier. I'm assuming you're having those same, your department is having those same critical conversations. If hybrid's not working for one of our special ed kids, we're saying, hey, come back into the building. Right?
We are.
We're,
That's an IEP team decision. So those conversations have been happening and changes have been made as needed.
because to me, those are our kids that's a critical need. It's a tomorrow need, not a at the quarter need. It's a, starting Monday, and we're making them.
Yep, we've been doing that. I would also say that we know that the research says, and Missy said it before, the research says that every 24 hours giving feedback or learning something is the best way to learn. So if kids can be here 5 days a week, that's gonna be the best for them to learn, whether it's a COVID slide issue or a student with a disability. I would say our teachers definitely need more time, whether they're a special ed teacher or a general ed teacher. Everybody can use more time. They're all drowning. With our special ed teachers, having that extra time at the end of the day may be that they can focus their online learners at that time instead of having to hit and miss during the day when they have time. So that may be better for scheduling, and they may be more effective during the day with their in-person interventions. So that's where I'm at on that. Any other questions?
No, thank you, Kelly.
Can Switzerland change her mind?
Whoa, no, I already put a tick mark.
So part of my commitment was that we would stand in solidarity with also making decisions for the benefit of our elementary students. And I need to say that up front because, again, I told you that I can argue for either of the proposals, whether we talk Friday, Wednesday, Monday, if we talk a full day that is dedicated to online, which, by the way, I really, really hate when people call it the day off or whatever those things might be, because I can guarantee you it's not going to be a day off for our teachers. So with that being said, I have a critical need agenda item that I want teachers to feel like they have the time to talk to our families who they need to talk to. And I know that they feel a mourning or loss for those kids, that they had that automaticity within their classrooms to be able to gauge how the kids were doing. And I lobbied fairly heavily as we talked about this to give time every day. And in fact, there were a couple of us who, when we started the conversation with Jen, if you remember, we talked about having a schedule that was like our first 2 weeks of school. And we understand how heavily that would impact instruction. And as a secondary person, I backed off of that ask because I also understood the data that Missy's struggling with and grappling with and not wanting to lose that time. And that eventually her children become our secondary children as well. And that catching up becomes a big issue. So I will tell you that in the chatter, the text, the things that are coming forward, there are some very creative ideas that have come from our secondary teachers who, the majority of them tonight who are invested have said, Friday makes the most sense. And again, I don't think they care if that's Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. They're just saying that one day makes the most sense to them. And things that they told me, that they talked about interventions, that some would still want to have students come back in small groups if that was allowable. They also talked about the loss and mourning right now of what we consider an effective PLC. And I don't know if anybody has really looked at the bell schedule for our high school teachers, but when we gave that half hour and said, we need you to do your upload and your instruction for online and hybrid kids, what we negated for them was an early out to have their PLC. So they're getting out now at 2 o'clock with that expectation that they're doing their upload. And that was one of the things that was texted to me, is that there is this commitment that they're missing out on right now, that they really want to be able to work together on their instruction and work together on the ways that things move forward. I also had a teacher tell me that if there are concerns, that would give us opportunity to get after those concerns about classroom instruction, the nature of the Canvas course, the flatness a teacher might be delivering. But the high school in the current proposed everyday schedule is only gaining 15 minutes in that proposal, and it's 30 minutes for the junior high, and that doesn't necessarily give them time in a day that they could have an effective PLC that they're after. So here's the thing. Probably an hour ago, I would have told you made the most sense to get after the 5 days a week, but also in hearing from teachers and thinking about things, we can land either place, and we'll be grateful for that acknowledgement. But if I were to like tip a little bit from Switzerland into Italy, which is this way, right? Go to Italy. I think that the secondary teachers who have reached out to me tonight have asked for a day.
And kind of reassuring that everybody in this room
Is struggling?
because I know that we struggle, like, it's great almost to hear that even Doug saying like 45 minutes ago, I might have said something different. That's how I felt like my weeks been.
And I do want to do one more thing to advocate for our teachers. A lot of the people who wrote us this week are struggling with the idea that they have to pick up their children from Murray schools and then get back to work. And again, that domino of, I'm a high school teacher, I'm a junior high teacher, I'm an elementary teacher, but my kids are releasing at these other times. And the one letter that really stood out to me talked about the fact that it's far more manageable to figure out a Friday than 5 days a week. So I put that in front of you for your consideration as well. And I just need to express appreciation, because I know it's not an easy conversation for you as a board member, for all of you as parents, and really trying to figure out that question that's been suggested by everybody who's come up today about what's best for our kids. And you've also heard our pleas for what's best for our teachers to help take care of our kids. So I want to thank each of you for the consideration, and I know you've been agonizing over this as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Just out of curiosity, how many do we have on our chat?
92.
Wow.
Well, we have 900 watching, we just, yeah, so.
100,
Up to 100, some kind of.
the most popular, right?
Wow. Turn off that chat, go watch TV or something. Jen,
I move that we, vote on which learning module we feel most appropriate. Problem is, I'm not sure yet just where I'm landing on that. Because I'll tell you, I worry that giving, for example, elementary being dismissed at 2:15, getting them only a half hour, doesn't feel like it's that much time difference to really make enough of an impact. And I would think that they would probably need more time to do that. So that one worries me a little bit. I do know from people that I have talked to that it's 50-50 on one day off versus staying on. It's a tough call. I do worry that it's at the end of the week that it is kind of you lose steam and trying to build up versus maybe having it earlier in the week to be able to give people a chance to catch up over the weekend if they can, but. So that's kind of.
You're undecided, yeah. Well,
I would just like to know if it's going to be a Friday, how many hours will the students be in school Monday through Thursday? And I know it's someplace in my computer, but I don't.
That number you told us was a good number. 4:30. It's about 6 is either way, or 6:30.
pretty close.
Oh, 6:30. Oh, yeah, I got it. It's,
5:30?
560, 5 days a week. Wow. It was backwards than what you thought it was gonna be. Yeah. So if we do 5 days a week. You want me to report it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
5 days a week with a 1:30 release is 560 hours. 4 days a week with a 3:15 release, and then with a no Wednesday. Oh, and you go to school on Wednesday until 3:15. You go to 4 days a week to 3:15, and then no school on the 5th day. That gives us 653 instructional hours. And then option C is 5 days a week with a 2:15 release. And then Wednesday at 1 p.m. release. That gives us 630 instructional hours.
Yeah, and that's great. I just need to make one point of clarification for people online. So I just want to make sure that the board considers if you are going to talk about a one-day digital learning day, you will need to make the decision if we're going to then move everybody back. We've given 30 minutes, if you remember. Are you going to continue to give them that 30 minutes, or are we going to move them back to the original end time of 3:15 in the elementary? So I think that's very important to know, because I think there's some chatter going on that the 2:45 is still going to stay, plus have a digital learning day. So just, that will be something. So if you do decide that, then we are going to need to decide if you're going to continue that or add those hours back on.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more thing I want to write down. On behalf of the secondary.
I don't have any more room on my.
I love the schools together, but on any given Friday or Monday, we are running about 700 students between the 3 schools who are electing to do hybrid. And again, those numbers go even higher if we're adjacent to a holiday weekend.
On a Monday or Friday.
On a Monday or Friday. The other thing that I do think would be needed to be considered, because I've experienced this in Granite District, is that we have a lot of Fridays or Mondays that are holidays, and the impact on our teachers would need to be adjusted for that. And
We
in,
want them to have that day off.
in Granite District, they've moved it to a Thursday, if that's happened.
Yeah. She wants to be a true day off if it's.
That's kind of why we went with the Wednesday early out, because we would miss so many.
Friday.
Yeah, that was that big.
All right, well,
So
you gotta vote one way or the other.
I believe the 4 days with 3:15,
Oh,
that gives them a lot more hours in the classroom, I think, than having a short day almost every other, Monday through Thursday would be a short day. But let's have real school and for 4 days a week.
Sorry, I was just corrected by my vice president. We don't need to, we don't take a vote. We don't need to say one way or the other. Somebody will make a motion.
We just need to make a motion and we will vote on it and it passes for it.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll give you, your thoughts, Belinda.
I have worried all week about our families and our parents and really was coming, as you guys said an hour ago, I was coming in here and I was not gonna have the kids have any shortened days and I was gonna have the kids in all day, but I softened my feelings on that. I mean, I told Jen this, like, I was concerned about my angst I was feeling about it. I feel like the best use of time, and time is what they need for interactions and emailing, and that sounds like what is mostly needed. Conversation is a little bit every day so that it's continuous, and that our kids are still in our building 5 days a week, so the ones that are thriving in our building are still in our building.
Do you think so, Elizabeth?
I thought, I'm going to.
You can't go back.
Well, so I don't really know which one I want to say, but I want to say that I want to recognize that the parents who wrote into us about, keeping our hybrid and making sure that our teachers are having time for online students, is part of the equation. And so I'm going to change my mind in a minute, but I'm leaning towards, because of that, doing the earlier out 5 days a week. But I will support either option wholeheartedly because I know that our teachers need time. So that's where I am.
Okay. Well, I'm going to share my thoughts real quick. I too was not sure which way. Based on the feedback we're getting, the thing the teachers need is time. That's not a question. I think we're where the time is best. I do worry about our kids a lot. But I think that based on what I've heard is they need more time for corresponding with the students, getting back to the students, providing for the needs of the students, both online and hybrid. And if my student has a need on a Monday, I don't want him to wait till Friday to get what he needs. Because my teacher's overwhelmed on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then she gets a breather, or he gets a breather on Friday. So I think a little bit more time every day, in my mind, provides more real-time assistance to our students. So for that reason only, I lean toward the extra time on a day. And I do know that it probably is more of it's harder on some of our parents. I think that might be more difficult, but I think in the long run, to me, it provides a better opportunity for better education. Having said that too, I think it also provides a little bit better social and emotional health for them to have a routine that happens every day, even though if it was my kids, I would love them to have every Friday off. But I think for our social emotional health, we get to check on every little kid every day, or we have an opportunity, whether they send them or not. If there were some things happening at home that they came to school and the parent knows, as to, we can intervene. Yeah. So, and I know it's only one day and we have lots of Fridays off anyway, so I don't know that provides a lot, but those are just my thinking. And so I guess, are we ready for a vote?
Just one more question. In our motion, Jim had mentioned how long do we want to do this through a semester? Do we want to
do you want to do it through the year? I know didn't you say something you'd like to?
I think we need to just say, moving forward from this point forward, until if there's additional information that comes forward, I don't think we can say,
Okay.
this is forever, because we just don't know what might be around the next bit.
So I didn't know if you wanted a semester
No.
type of option or anything.
I have one last question. 4 days versus 5 days. Do the students have more hours, or would it be the same number of hours in school?
That was the numbers that we provided to us, the hours. So at the 5 days, it's 560 hours. Well, and it's a little confusing because of the time you get out.
Yeah.
But the 4 days a week provides the most hours, instructional hours in school. Which is not what you would think, but it does.
If you're going till later, like Jen mentioned.
Right, they go later in the
So
day.
that's why I think so.
So that's, I think it says, most of the numbers of in school has to be with.
But it's a little confusing because you've got a couple different scenarios there.
Yeah.
We can adjust those numbers a little bit based on how much extra time we give or how much, right?
Because it's a little different than it seems on the surface, because then, sorry, I'm trying to look at low light first, sorry. Because teachers are there till, kids are there till 3:15. Teachers are out of the building a half an hour later for elementary. So, yes, it's giving you more hours, but in my mind, that's a littler chunk at the end of the day than.
Well, it depends on if we take off the already given 30 minutes.
Yeah, right, so.
Or if we keep it with what the schedule is now, to get out at 2:10, well, that's what time our kids get out. I don't know.
I can bring that up.
Rich, you had something.
Just a clarification on what's the intent of this decision? How long is it, the next term, the rest of the year?
Yeah.
Just answer that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, as a board and as a staff, I think we're committed to, if we see a need to change based on whatever throws our way, we would make a change.
But I think we're also committed to not change.
Not change if it doesn't
Every-
make sense, yeah.
But yeah.
So, I don't know why this is not.
Could you had sent us an updated one?
Right, so there's two different options. Junior high dismissed at 1 p.m., elementary dismissed at 1:30, high school dismissed at 2. That does take away quite a bit of instructional time from the elementary, and that was feedback that we took from our last study session. It also didn't provide any additional consideration for high school, which we know that there are some needs there as well. So the updated proposal would be junior high dismissed at 1:38, high school dismissed at 1:45, elementary dismissed at 2:15, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and at 1 p.m. on Wednesday. In the junior high and high school, that would be a 5-day-a-week dismissal. And there is, if the board wanted to consider an option of doing something different for elementary and secondary, you could do that, you could split it. We haven't discussed the pros and cons of that, but at this point, there's chatter, and so I thought I would bring that up, but there could be unintended consequences that we don't know about at this point.
Well, the PLC was another one.
So 4 days at elementary, did we every day at 1:30?
No, that would be a 5-day week. That's based on the 5 days.
So that's the 5 days.
So just to clarify, the top portion is what we originally kind of brainstormed in study session last week. But we took, and I appreciate the work of Robin and Missy really kind of looking at this. And in order to recapture more instruction time while also giving additional consideration for teacher time, we did the updated proposal to, again, so that we don't lose as much instruction time, but are giving consideration. So you can see on there, in the updated proposal, that would give teachers 60 minutes daily plus their 30 minutes that they have for contract time. So right now they have an hour. This would give them an hour and a half. High school, right now they have 45 minutes. It would give them additional 15 for what they have now. In elementary, it would give them additional 30 minutes each day. And then an additional 15 minutes on Wednesdays, because normally they've been getting out at 1:15, and this would have them out at 1. So again, that updated proposal was based on feedback that we heard from the board last week, that there was concern about the grade loss, and we agree. We're trying to balance instructional time, because that's very needed, along with the needs of our teachers. And so that was kind of the compromise. And that works with the busing that Dave talked about, so.
The other thing I liked about that compromise was, for me at least as a parent, a half an hour more at my kid at home alone was a little more palatable than the longer time. I know we can get in trouble if they're home for 5 minutes, but it's just, I don't know, but that made me feel better about like, okay, he was half an hour more than I started planning. An hour seems like a long time to find another option for them. I probably would not make a difference. Please call for a vote.
Any
I
other,
think we need to set this vote.
yeah, what are we voting on?
Well, what you would do is somebody would make a motion and we would vote on it and it would either pass or.
I just want to know about time in the school, because I look up here and our students need more time. If they're only there 4 days, you don't want them leaving at 1:30.
Well, that would be the question, is if we go to a 4 days, do we extend the day? And I think that I'm gonna go out on a limb, and if I offend any teachers by speaking for them, I think that giving up some of that time at the end of the day and getting an extra day off might be worse than just getting some extra time through the week. I don't know.
Well, if they're.
Because if we take a whole day off now, is it 4.5 hours? What time do they get there? 8?
Oh, yeah, not a day.
Yeah, sorry, day out of
A
school.
digital learning day.
Digital learning day.
That's 4 days.
Yeah, but these are 4 days based on different times getting out.
Yeah.
So you're comparing apples to oranges.
Well, what it is 560 hours. If you do 5 days, if you do 4 days,
The students do get more time if we go 4 days a week. But we are extending, we're making a big change on parents who've already made some, we're going from the 2, what time do the elementaries get out now?
2:45.
2:45, the secondary get out at 2.
No,
We're extending,
junior high gets out at 1:50.
no, they get out at 2:10. I pick up my daughter at 2:10. That's the only one I know about.
But what you're changing, you're not giving, what you're sacrificing with is 4 days and go to 3:50. You're sacrificing time at the end of the day for their uploads, their regular schedule, normal planning, things that teachers need to do always, pre-pandemic, whatever. And then you're giving them the chunk at the end. So you're still, that's,
But you also could decide to let them keep the 30 minutes.
right, and that's a whole, that's another.
But then that's the 30 minutes of instructional daily plus and I'm gonna call it 6 hours because it's probably a little less or more. So at that point, we have lost 8 hours a week of instructional time.
It was just more.
In-person instructional time. Whereas if we go to, and I was a math major, but this math is hard.
At the end of the day, you like.
Yeah, if we go to so if we go to a 4-day-a-week with the time the same as getting out now, we've lost 8 hours a week of instructional time to pre-pandemic. If we extend the day out to 3:15 previous time, that gives them 7 hours of instructional time a day, right? So then we.
It goes down to 600 instructional hours, if you honor the 30 minutes that they currently have.
And the online learning.
And if you add the online learning day of like adding 2 hours, then you add 52.5 hours to that. So but now remember, if you
guys are doing your steps.
So, yeah, I mean,
My issue.
so if you honor the 30 minutes that you've already given teachers, then that 600 and what did I say? 53 goes down to 600 hours of instruction. But then if you have digital content posted, that adds 52.5 hours. Because if you add, and I did it for Fridays, and there's way less Fridays than Wednesdays, that's 52.5 hours, okay? But that takes planning. So now again, rob Peter to pay Paul. So now you're adding digital content that teachers have to prep to upload digital content that may or may not get done, that now needs to get feedback and corrected. So you've added digital content to be posted, and you've reduced the amount of planning time.
So I'm gonna make a motion.
All right.
I'm gonna make a motion that I move that we approve the updated proposal to put junior high out at 1:38 PM, high school out at 1:45, both of those are Monday through Friday. Elementary business at 2:15, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and at 1 o'clock on Wednesday. That is my motion.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Thank you. We've got a second. Any discussion?
I'm sure that's enough time for the elementary side. I still am really worried that that's not.
I think that's a whole nother proposal, so you can vote no, but that's a whole, then I think we are sending it back to them to crunch a whole other set of numbers. Well, I agree, I don't know if it's enough time, I asked that last week, is that enough time to do any good? But they have to crunch another set of numbers.
So
The other set of numbers are above that, and that's the 530 hours. That would be elementary dismissed at 1:30. And that would be 5 days a week. That's what we did at the beginning of the school year. A couple of schools would be hard pressed to get interventions in that time. We can make whatever the board decides to make work. We would be shifting around responsibilities. I mean, at this point, we're doing a shell game of responsibilities, of planning, of interventions. We have 200 and some odd kids, 60% of our students that need interventions. It's all about the quality of teaching.
You're also looking at, you're normally 990 hours a year. So you go down to 530 and 520.
And it goes back to what Scott did in his closing arguments last week, which is, what are we gonna do to minimize the slide? And that's what we would be doing, is just simply minimizing slide.
Well, instead of assuming Friday would be at the end of the week, Friday, they would be working towards next Monday through Thursday.
So
So
in
they,
parliamentary procedure, we need to vote and then discuss.
And for the people, could you restate the motion, Belinda?
Okay, so-
They just did not hear it on.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having that, my twins over there. I move that we go with the updated proposal given to us by the district office, that the junior high dismissal time will be 1:38 Monday through Friday. High school dismissal will be 1:45 Monday through Friday. My glasses. Elementary dismissal will be 2:15 on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and at 1 PM on Wednesday, going forward, starting at the quarter.
Starting at the beginning of term.
Term 2, starting at the beginning of term 2.
And until we need to make a change. And we have a second from Elizabeth, so I'm gonna take a vote, since, all those in favor?
So,
Oh.
just real quick. So we have a motion and a second, so now's the discussion before the vote. Correct.
Right, that's what we were trying to do.
Right.
Oh, I thought-
Are you continuing to discuss?
Yeah.
Or are you ready to vote?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I-
Belinda said we had to take a vote.
Sorry, I went backwards.
You're right. Any other discussion on that motion?
Well, I guess I would say on that motion.
a discussion, I still am very worried that children are not getting the number of hours in their education, and they're already behind. We have so many students that are behind from last year, and here we are cutting them short.
And I think that's been all of our heartache through this whole week is that balance. I mean, that's slow. 100% that's where I've been at all week is that we're not gonna have kids in school enough hours to do what they need to do. But then the pleas from the teachers, Doug or Dave said they'll do a better job, better prepared. It's the balance.
It's the quality of the instruction versus the quantity of this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the balance we're trying to figure out.
I think we're all in agreement I mean, kids need to be in the 990 hours, they do, but we all agreed on that.
When teachers, if they had a whole Friday without any students in the classroom,
Where I'm coming from, that leaves behind some students, and those students are the ones who aren't in the classroom. And that's why I support the extra day.
I think that's
Or the extra time.
Elizabeth,
the extra day for the teacher.
I mean,
Like,
like, for the extra time,
the 5 days a week, and extra time every day.
An extra time, so a whole Friday.
No, she's saying,
No.
she just accidentally said.
I misspoke, what I meant was the extra time off at the end of the day.
You think it's the most equitable to
She
all.
wants this proposal right here. She
Yes.
supports this proposal.
It's not because you think like the kids are in class, they have the option to be in class every day, if that's, is that kind of crazy?
Well, what I'm thinking is it's because not every student is able to be in class every day, or not every student is in class. So it makes it more equitable for the students that are in class and the students that are not in class.
And I think that's kind of what pushed me over the edge to this was that they all get feedback that day, if they're in class or not class. More opportunity than having to wait till the teacher's day off. Not day off, sorry, I don't want to.
All right.
Yeah, till their digital learning day when they have time to reach out.
But I'm still not liking this because how many of our parents are going to be at work? And we've got elementary kids coming out at 1:30.
We're
No,
voting on one, two,
the second one is what you need to look at.
And again, well, I think that is all of our, like that, kids being in school, families, like we're all aware of that and really.
Elementary is the
It
last
doesn't
one
sit
out.
well, it's a great solution, but
I was gonna say the secondary gets out before elementary.
But that's a busing reason, right?
No, but she was saying that elementary would
which
get home
actually,
before.
we had that flip problem before, so now technically we got a high school or junior high kid, they're home first, go to 10. Or go grab them at school or all those things we do in family school.
Right, so, Jared, are you guys ready to go? Do you want more discussion?
Might as well,
Okay.
we gotta move on to this one way or the
Yeah,
other.
let's vote. All those in favor of the updated proposal that's on the board?
I.
Nay.
Oh my gosh.
You've ever had that?
This is the first time I've had to vote in 2 years. I vote aye. So it passes. What?
So is this for the whole year or is this till the end of the
Well,
year?
we voted on it, it doesn't mean we can't readdress it.
Yeah, we can readdress it. We're all hoping that, I mean, there's so many changes in the health and the COVID that's happening that I think it's unfair for us to say we will not look at it again. That's unfair to say to our teachers and our parents and our students.
I think we've made a commitment to the community that it's not gonna be like every 2 weeks.
No, this will be for the next term,
For sure.
and then we'll move forward from there. Okay,
For the next term?
if the
I don't
terms
think we can
get,
make any just changes.
We didn't
At
make
least
any
to the next
deadline
one.
yeah.
on it.
We're just not, we've vocally committed, not by vote, but we don't want to be changing every 3 weeks, 1 month, and I think that helps you guys in the office. But we're not changing over.
I appreciate the district staff. The reason I had you all come up here each because we value your opinions. You guys are the ones who keep us informed, so thank you for all the time and energy that you put into trying to make the best decision. I don't think anybody walked in here thinking this would be easy. I hope that it is a balance for our teachers. We appreciate our teachers, what they're doing, but we also know that, like I said before, it's one kid's 5th grade year, one kid's 7th grade year. So we've got to do everything we can to make it the best that it can for those kids. So, Superintendent, do you have anything else?
Want us to decide anything else?
No, I just want to thank the board, and I would like to echo that this has not been a decision that's been taken lightly by any of us. So while we understand there are educators who may be happy about this and educators who may be unhappy about this, we really are trying to do the best we can, and really the bottom line is what's best for our students. We've got to support that while balancing the needs of our teachers and our families. So again, this has not been taken lightly by anyone. I know the board has expressed that, as well as by anyone here at the district. Many, many hours and heart-wrenching and hard conversations have happened. So we appreciate our educators. We appreciate our families. We appreciate our community. We are all doing very difficult things in a time that we have never experienced before. And so I would just like to say we're committed to doing the best by all and doing everything we can to support each of those entities.
All right, and I did see that you would like to go into a closed session.
Yes, I would like to request President Anderson that we go into a closed session to discuss personnel and property.
All right, Chairman, Bo? Linda? Yes. Okay, we will go to a closed session after a short 3 to 5 minute break.
Fantastic, and I would like to excuse the district team that is here with us this
Thank you all
evening.
for all your hours and hours and hours of work. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, you got it.
It's been a long time.